Hey everyone, Ronan here, and welcome back to the channel. We're getting closer to the end of this what if as we near the end of January. But before we get into all that, we got a couple of things that we gotta do. First, we gotta shout out the Patreon. So, Cami Stein, thank you very much for the support, as always. And also, you guys, analytics are very important, so please make sure to double check these numbers and check the like and check the subscribe versus unsubscribe who's watching the videos. So please, don't forget to drop a like and drop a comment, so that way you'll help fuel the algorithm to help the video get to a larger audience. And if you're new here, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. That way you'll never miss another upload from the channel. But with all that being said, let's get into what if Brock took the gym challenge, part 18. I hope you enjoy. We begin today's episode with Brock, Leon, Joe, and Peony as they are on a boat sailing in the eastern parts of the Galarian Sea. However, the destination is unknown by all except for Peony, as he has gathered the boys for some very special training, if you will. But the champion has been tight-lipped about everything, even though Brock, Leon, and Joe have been pounding him with questions about where they are heading, and how unruly the sea seems to be with all of these recent spikes in Dynamax activity. Even the oceans are unsafe as they were attacked by a Dynamax Sharpedo, which Peony had to use his Dynamax Caparaja in order to battle, and it nearly sunk the boat as it was growing, but luckily the elephant was big enough to reach the bottom of the ocean, so it was able to take out the shark relatively easily. This leads us to the current point, as the boat is beginning to near what looks like an island of some sort. However, this island is very odd. There appears to be no human activity on it whatsoever, no man-made structures or anything. And this is pointed out by Joe, to which Peony says that he's glad that the boy realized it. This is known as the Isle of Armor. It's a very secluded place in Galar, and I used to come here for training all the time as a lad, just like you two. And this is where I discovered the secrets of Gigantamaxing. Joe, Leon, and Brock look at Peony puzzled. However, the champion doesn't leave him in suspense for long, as he explains the comment that Brock had made to him before about how he couldn't understand how his Colossal looked different than the one that was in the Sirchester gym that belonged to the leader. Peony explains that just because a Pokemon has a Gigantamax transformation doesn't mean it can automatically take it. It's something that has to be earned between the trainer and the Pokemon. If they don't, then that Pokemon will just merely Dynamax, not gaining any special powers or moves. So, do we all have the ability to Gigantamax a Pokemon, Brock says? To which Peony responds that they do. Leon, your Charizard has the ability to do that, as well as your Colossal. And Joe, if memory serves me correctly, you have a Dreadnought, don't you? Yeah, I do. I caught it way back when, but I remember that gym leader Nessa had one, to which Peony confirms. The reason why she has a Gigantamax Dreadnought is because she went through the trials to earn it. Her and her Pokemon bonded, and as a result, she was able to gain the top level of power that Dreadnought can unlock. So this is the place that they are going to be able to do it. This excites the three boys, as they all want to immediately get a chance to get on the island so that way they can discover these secrets that the champion is telling them about. However, Peony has to put the brakes on them, telling the boys that they're going to have to wait. The island is full of very high level and dangerous Pokemon, so they're going to have to tread lightly. There's a specific ingredient or two that they're going to have to find, and it's best that they do it in the middle of the day, as they step onto the island only to reveal that it's almost sunset, so they'll make camp close to the beach, as most of the Pokemon live in the middle of the island. While this does sadden the trio a bit, they realize that Peony is right, especially with all these random outbursts of Dynamaxing. The last thing they want is to be caught in the middle of a giant outbreak and not be able to defend themselves. So, reluctantly, the boys set up camp, making a fire and pitching a couple of tents. However, that doesn't mean that everything is all kumbaya, as there's still a tension between Leon and Brock, as the boy still sees Brock as his rival. Now, while they're cordial because Peony is here, that doesn't mean that things aren't just slightly tense. And this can be felt when all the boys and Peony are sitting around a campfire on the beach, eating their dinner. It's very quiet. They can only hear the rustles in the bushes inside of the island and the waves from the beach flesh slapping against the sand. It's very unsettling to Peony, as he is a high energy person and he doesn't like things to be quiet. So he breaks the silence, asking Leon how his entire journey has been. After all, Peony reveals here that he was the one who sponsored the boy to begin with. This catches both Brock and Joe off guard, but then again, they never really asked who had sponsored Leon. They just assumed that it had been Chairman Rose the entire time. However, Peony tells them that they needed to forget that nonsense. Rose only sponsored people that are in his best interests, while I sponsor people that are in Galler's best interests. This is where Joe asks Peony to elaborate on that, to which the champion tries to remain as vague as possible, explaining that he likes healthy competition in the league, to where his brother tries to control it by only putting people that may have some sort of influence or help him gain some type of goal. I love my older brother, but sometimes he can be a bit selfish. And when I met Leon here, I knew instantly that he had the makings of a champion, so I wanted him to be part of the league. And while my brother detested the fact that I had given him a sponsorship letter, he couldn't really do anything. As the champion, it's my right to sponsor anybody, no matter who they are. This gets a slow murmur between Brock and Joe, as the boy questions that why didn't Brock just ask this guy to sponsor him in the first place instead of stealing his dad's letter. After all, it would have been a whole lot easier with everything that was happening with Giselle. However, Brock just tells him that they shouldn't even worry about that now. His sponsorship letter got him past Chairman Rose, and he's been able to challenge all of the gyms up to this point. So as far as Brock's concerned, it's a non-issue. He hasn't even looked at the letter since before Chairman Rose looked at it. So they should just enjoy the night. After all, they're going to have a lot of work if they want to get the secrets of Gigantamaxing in the morning. However, as the two end their low murmuring to each other, a rustling in the brush not too far away from them can be heard, and it's not something that appears to be going away from them, but something that's coming close to them. This puts everyone on edge. However, Peony simply laughs, stating that it may be one of the local wildlife wanting to come see who they are. Curiosity in all of that. However, Joe isn't too sure. After all, the footprints that this creature is leaving behind feel heavy, like it's angry, aggressive, and it could be hungry. Or even worse, one bad day away from Dynamaxing and forcing them into a battle that they may not want to be part of. However, the boy's gonna have to put his thoughts on hold, as the footsteps are getting louder and heavier, signifying whatever it is closing in on them fast. This causes everyone to get on edge except for Peony, as the three boys ready their Pokeballs, aiming to take on whatever is going to attack them. However, they quickly find out that what was closing in on them is no danger at all, as it's somebody that Brock and Joe had thought that they had lost. Berserker, Brock says, as it peers through the bushes with its nose leading the way. This causes Joe to sigh heavily. Man, it followed us. It must have gotten lost and followed the scent. Peony simply laughs while Leon is confused, not really understanding the situation. This is where Joe goes on to explain that Berserker has been following them since Spikemuth. For whatever reason, it just wants to eat everything that they have, and they're quickly running out of money to support this thing. It was abandoned by its trainer for the same reason. Leon says that the cat looks very mangy, like it may have a few diseases, to which Joe says he wouldn't be surprised. When they met it, it was literally eating out of a trash can. However, Brock tells them that they shouldn't worry. Berserker has never meant them any harm. It's never even shown any type of aggression towards them whatsoever. Its main focus has always been its stomach, and this is demonstrated as the cat begins to gobble down all of the food that they had dropped around the fire, even stuff that was in the dirt around it. Berserker is savage when it comes to food. It doesn't matter where it's been or how old or rotten it may be. The steel type is just gonna gobble it down. And this is even put on full display when Berserker realizes that there's a piece of meat that they had dropped inside of the fire, and the steel type completely ignores its own weakness as it reaches into the fire, not even flinching to grab the now charred meat and stuffs it into his mouth, and causing both Leon and Joe to let out a sigh and an ick as they are completely disgusted with its eating habits. But that was the last of the food that they had had unpacked and made. Now Berserker has lost complete interest in the quartet, so it begins to wander off to other parts of the island, looking to satiate its never-ending gluttony. Well, since all of our food's gone, I guess we had better get some sleep, Joe says, to which is seconded by both Brock and Leon, while Peony tells the boys not to worry. He'll stand guard for the first couple of hours, so that way they can get a good night's rest before the day's festivities of tomorrow. With that, the boys settle in, trying to tuck themselves as snugly in their sleeping bags as possible, hoping that they won't be attacked throughout the night. However, for Joe, this isn't going to be easy, as he begins to have a slight nightmare, and the boy isn't quite sure of what it means. The only thing he can see is Brock and all the badges he's been winning, and then Alistair, the gym leader that he seemed to have become friends with, and Joe, then the Pokemon Academy, while Brock is saying goodbye. The boy doesn't understand this, and it's causing him to freak out, and then something like a rumbling can be heard, and then the ground is shaking. Whatever the noise is, it's getting louder and closer, and then Joe can feel it. Pain. It's like somebody's kicking him, and he doesn't know what to do. And this is followed by a voice. It seems like it's angry, but it's a low murmur. Joe can't make it out. However, the voice is getting louder and more defined before he hears the words, "Hey, you lousy bum, get off my island!" And the boy shoots up in his sleeping bag, only to be met with a kick to the side of the head, as there's an old man standing above him. As Joe collapses to the beach, he gets a peripheral view of what's going on, with Leon and Brock both still passed out, while Peony is slumped over a log snoring like he had never slept a day in his life. Joe, unsure of what just hit him, sits up, only to see the old man from Stoneside, the fighting type gym leader that told them he was retiring because he was tired with the Pokemon League. "Hey, why did you kick me?" Joe says in anger, to which the old man replies, "Because you're on my island. You shouldn't be here. Now leave at once." However, the boy is now angered as he begins to argue with the old man, telling him that there was no reason for him to be kicked in the side of the head, and the two break out in a full-blown tantrum as they trade exchanges in words that aren't too pleasant. The outburst of the two is going to cause both Leon and Brock to wake up, as they're unsure of what's happening, thinking that they're both being attacked, but they are met with a surprise sight of Joe arguing with a frail-looking old man, while Peony is unable to hear anything, still slumped over the log, snoring his heart out. Confused about the situation, both Brock and Leon try to figure out what's going on with Joe and this old man. However, the only thing that they can get from them is the argument and some brief nods to being kicked in the head and an old man being unhappy because there's people on his island. It's really not making any sense confusing the two, considering that they're getting two sides of two very different stories from each person at the same time. They're having trouble putting together the events of what just happened. It eventually gets to the point to where Brock just yells at the top of his lungs for them both to stop. This causes Joe to quiet up while the old man continues to babble on, telling them they need to leave his property at once. However, Brock is unsure what this old man means. "We were brought here by him," to which the old man turns to see Peony still slumped over the log snoring. This is where the old man lets out a scowl. "I figured it had to be someone like you." The old man then begins to walk over to Peony as he's grumbling to himself. Both Brock and Joe are trying to figure out what this old man's problem is. However, Leon offers some context here. His name is Mustard, and he's my master. He's the one who gave me my starter Pokemon, Charmander, back when he was still champion of the Galar region. He was originally going to be the one to sponsor me, but then Peony took over after Mustard decided to step down when Chairman Rose took over. "Well, that doesn't give him the right to be so crotchety," Joe says, to which Leon responds, "He never used to be like this. He used to be a very lovable person, but ever since he stepped down as champion, he's just been a former shell of himself." However, the conversation between the three is going to be interrupted when Peony is delivered a gut punch as he lays across the log, causing the champion to wake up and squeal in pain as he doubles over from the force that he wasn't expecting to take. The Galarian champion is coughing as he's trying to figure out what just happened, only for his vision to come into focus, seeing Mustard standing above him. Before the champion could say anything, Mustard demands that Peony take the brats and leave his island. "Wait, your island, Peony says as he struggles to stand up. "Oh, that's right. I had heard that it was purchased by somebody, but I didn't think it was you." "Well, now you know, so you need to leave." "Well, hold on, Mustard," Peony says. "I'm here for a very important reason." But Mustard doesn't want to hear anything that the champion has to say, merely turning to walk off. However, this is where Leon steps in. "Master Mustard, please hear him out. I'm no longer your master, boy. I haven't been in a very long time. I understand that your Charmander has grown very strong. While I'm proud of that, you have walked your own path, so there's no need for you to call me master. Now leave my island at once." However, Leon's not going to take this as an answer, as he explains they're here to get stronger. They were told they could unlock the seats of Gigantamax in here. This causes Mustard to stop as he was walking away. He then turns. "Peony, what kind of nonsense have you been filling these boys' heads with?" To which the champion simply responds, "No nonsense at all." You were the one that showed me this place when I was a kid, so why are you so against these kids having the same type of abilities and the same possibilities that we had? Mustard lets out a very intense sigh, telling Peony that he doesn't believe that they should have that ability. After all, it's just going to be wasted on the next generation. They don't care for the Pokemon battles. All they care about is what Chairman Rose wants. However, this is where both Brock and Leon chime in. They are not sponsored by Rose. Neither one of them were. This catches Mustard's attention, as Peony explains that Leon was sponsored by him. He knew that Mustard wanted Leon to be part of the gym challenge, and when he came of age, Peony made sure that it happened. However, Brock is a special case, but he sure wasn't sponsored by my brother. As a matter of fact, if I had to say it, my brother shares a little bit of disdain for the boy, as he too was not picked by my brother. This is where Mustard turns, looking at the boys intensely. He then asks them one question, and he tells them that he wants their honest opinion. What does being a Pokemon trainer mean to you? This question catches the boys off guard, as they weren't expecting it, so they take a moment to think. As Peony thinks to himself, this is the same thing that happened when he was a boy, and he knows that if there's any kids that could get through to Mustard and soften his cold exterior, it would be these two. However, his inner monologuing is going to be interrupted by Mustard, as he is impatient. He wants their answers now, to which Leon is the first to offer up one. He says that he merely wants to become stronger. He wants to enjoy the thrill of the battle with his Pokemon, to test their limits, and continue to grow. While at first Mustard doesn't even acknowledge what Leon's statement was, he merely questions Brock. And you, boy, what is your reason for battling? To which Brock lets out an answer that Mustard wasn't expecting. Because I want to be closer to my mother. She was the one who taught me everything I knew. And now that she's gone, I want to feel that same sensation, the thrill and the excitement that I felt when I was with her, watching her battle. That's why I carry her Gyarados with me, so that way I can keep her memory alive. I want to become as strong as she was, and I want to honor her memory in any way that I can. Though both of these answers were different, they were answers that nobody was expecting from Brock or Leon. After all, normally both of the boys don't do a lot of talking about themselves. They tend to keep their personal problems locked inside so that way they don't burden others with their problems. And this is where we see the look on Mustard's face, as his eyes tend to change. There's no longer the look of frustration and anger inside of them. Instead, a look of curiosity, like he wants to see what these two boys can do, which is immediately followed up with, so you two truly have nothing to do with that half-wit Rose? To which both boys confirms. Very well, follow me, the old man says before he walks off into the lush overgrow of the forest that they're nearby. This gets Peony excited, while the other three are confused. He tells the boys to quickly follow him, or they're going to lose their chance. Mustard isn't a patient man, before he takes off into the jungle after the old man, leaving the boys to trail behind. They eventually reach a little clearing on the island that Mustard has made for himself. It looks like a camp of some sort. However, there's going to be no time for rest. Mustard turns immediately, telling both Leon and Brock to drop their supplies. They are only allowed to take one Pokemon with them. The Pokemon they want to be able to Dynamax. Everything else must stay behind. This catches the boys off guard. However, Mustard doesn't have time for their delay, as he demands that they do as he says right away, or their training will come to an end. Immediately, both of the boys drop their bags and all of their Pokeballs, holding only their starters in their hands. Now the old man commands that they release them, to which both boys comply, calling on Colossal and Charizard. As the two fully evolved fire types pop from the ball, Mustard makes one last command. He tells them to leave the Pokeballs here, to which confuses both of the boys, but they drop them next to their bags with everything else. He then tells them one simple thing. There is something specific that only grows on this island that you will need to find in order to help your Pokemon Gigantamax. It's called the Max Mushroom. You will need to obtain several of them, especially considering you want to have 2 Pokemon Gigantamax. The only way to do this is to head into the wilds of the island. They grow sporadically around. However, they are very rare, so the chances of you finding them are minuscule. It must be you and your Pokemon. You must forge a new bond, something that you've never seen before. If you cannot do either of these tasks, then I'm afraid you will be unsuccessful. Both Brock and Leon look at each other, then to their starters. Mustard then gives the boys a final warning before he tells them to go. If you don't work together, then I'm afraid your chances of success are going to be 0. So keep that in mind as you two head off into the wilds. Now go. Find the mushrooms or fail. Those are your two options. The old man then turns and sits on a log, meditating to himself, as the boys are left to ponder what had just happened. This is where Peony chimes in, telling them that this is what they have to do. This was going to be the same thing he was going to have them do. So, like it or not, if they want their Pokemon to get stronger, this is what's going to have to happen. The boys look at Peony and nod before telling their starters to come on. They then begin to walk into the forest, only for Joe to yell for Brock to stop. He's coming with them. However, Peony grabs the boy by his shoulder. "You can't," he says. "This is a journey that only they can take. You're gonna have to wait here with us." But I wanted to grow and gain Gigantamax for me and Dreadnought as well. However, Peony points out that Joe doesn't have a Dynamax band. So regardless if he gains Gigantamax or not, he would be unable to enact the transformation. So as of right now, he's going to have to sit this one out, because the terrors that await them on the island is something that he will not be able to contest with. Joe can do nothing but look on as he watches Brock disappear with Leon into the brush, as his heart slowly begins to sink. About an hour later, Leon and Brock find themselves in the wilds of the island. They are looking for these mushrooms back and forth. However, the words that Mustard had told them is something that keeps ringing in their heads. They have to work together in order to accomplish this. But what does that even mean? Sure, they can look together, and their Pokemon can help them too. But is that truly what the old man meant? To which Leon informs Brock that it's probably not. There has to be some sort of greater meaning in it. And if they don't figure it out, then they can guess their chances at Gigantamax as good as gone. "Well, what do you know about this old man Mustard?" Brock asks. "After all, he was the one who gave you your Charmander." Leon simply replies that he doesn't know a lot. However, when Mustard was the champion of the Galar region, things were different. The league was not as impressive as it is now, but it definitely held a more significant value, if that makes sense. To which Brock thinks he understands. Leon states that he thinks Peony tries his best to hold on to those values that Mustard had, but just like he said, him and Rose don't really get along. So Mustard made the decision to leave. He demoted himself from the ranks of a champion, willingly, and vacated the position before taking up the gym inside of Stoneside City. That was until recently. "Yeah, me and Joe were there the day he would close the gym," Brock replies. It seemed like he didn't really care about anything. Like there was nothing left in this life that would be exciting for him. It's a shame. I would have liked to battle a champion as strong as that at their peak. The boys continue to talk as they look for the mushrooms with Colossal and Charizard. However, what was once the early morning turns into the dead of night, as Brock and Leon both find themselves around the campfire with their two Pokemon. They were highly unsuccessful today, and neither one of them know why. But Brock tells Leon that they can't give up. If they wish to have any chance at getting these new forms and increasing their power, then they're going to have to continue this quest no matter how much they hate it. The two simply spend the rest of the night looking into the fire, as they don't have any food or many supplies with them, while from the shadows a certain garbage cat looks on, wondering what's going on with Brock. This leads us into the next morning, as the two have gotten up early and found their way to the northern edge of the island. Here, the wilds are vastly different from the southern island. It seems like they're far more untamed, and it's noticed with the aggressiveness of the Pokemon that exists in this place. But that's not only that exists here. Brock notices that there is an abundance of power spots that can cause Dynamaxing at random. This could be an issue for the four, as there are a bunch of wild Pokemon around them, and while they don't seem to be aggressive at this current time, as they don't really have any interest in the humans, that could change at a moment's notice. And little does Brock and Leon both know this couldn't be truer, as across the region, Chairman Rose and the former champion Opal are doing their best with what seems to be a massive power spot that is broken out in the wild area. This thing is huge. It's far bigger than any other Dynamax den that has existed in this place before. However, as Opal looks into the crevice beneath her feet, there's a gaze from something that looks back at her. "Go on, use your Pokemon. This is why I hired you in the first place." However, Opal shrieks in terror. "Whatever this thing is, it's far more dangerous than you told me, Rose. We should not be meddling in forces we don't understand." However, Rose refuses to take any heeds of warning from the old coot, as he sends out his own Kaparaja, and he begins provoking the beast from deep within its lair. But unfortunately, this is going to have a negative side effect, as the crevice begins to surge with purple energy, and all of the power spots across the Galar region begin to activate simultaneously. Back on the Isle of Armor with Brock and Leon, this happens at the same time, and before they know it, 4 of the power spots that are directly next to them go off, triggering a transformation for 4 different Pokemon of different and varying types and levels. An overwhelming surge of energy blankets the entire land as 4 Pokemon begin to transform and take on their much larger building-sized forms. These consist of a Drapion, the Poison Dark type, a Bouffalant, the Normal type, a Goodra, the Dragon type, and a Gigalith, the Rock type. As the 4 begin to transform, they begin to battle for space. As while the Isle of Armor is large, it isn't a place for Pokemon of this size to exist in such a cramped space. As Brock, Leon, and their 2 starters do their best to avoid being trampled by these massive Pokemon, they watch on as the local wildlife runs in fear, as the surrounding forest and wildlands are smashed under the feet of the giant-sized kaiju Pokemon. And as the Dynamax energy swells around them, both Brock and Leon realize there's only one way that they're going to be able to stop this from happening, and that's for their Pokemon to take them out. However, there's a slight problem. They don't have the Pokeballs of their Pokemon, so how are they supposed to Dynamax theirs? However, Leon seems to think that there might be a way around this. Wild Pokemon don't need a Pokeball or a Dynamax band in order to Dynamax. The only reason we use them is because it makes the process more stable. However, I think Mustard did this intentionally, because if we expose our Pokemon to enough Dynamax energy, then it will trigger their transformation. The reason why he did this is because he wants to test our bond with our Pokemon, which means that if we expose them to the power spots, then they should transform. However, whether or not they'll remain coherent is a different matter. While Brock and Leon both don't like the feeling of this, they both realize that they don't have any other choice. It's the only Pokemon that they have with them, and they have to make a split-second decision, ordering Charizard and Colossal into the wells of energy. While on the southern side of the island, Mustard and Peony watch on as Joe asks if they're going to do anything. However, the 2 simply remain silent as they look, wondering if the boys are going to be able to achieve the goal that they set out for. But it won't be long before they get their answer, as the boys have figured out the mystery into why they were given their Pokeballs in the first place, as they see both Colossal and Charizard join the phrase of the wild battling kaiju. However, it seems that they are just as rabid as all of the other Pokemon that have taken the transformation, as they begin to rampage across the lands, battling for any type of space that they can muster. But the difference here is both Brock and Leon. They have a bond with these 2 Pokemon, and though it takes some time, they're eventually able to break through and get to their starters as they come to their senses. From here, what follows is a knockdown, drag-out brawl, as Charizard and Colossal have to do their best to contain the other Dynamax Pokemon and prevent any damage to them or the surrounding wildlife. While this task seems next to impossible, it's merely a game of time. They have to run out the clocks on these transformations. Luckily, they've gotten a little bit of aid, as the wells around them have seemed to have subsided with their surges of energy for now, which means that Colossal and Charizard are able to use their transformations in order to overpower all of the other Dynamaxes, eventually allowing them to run their course as the Pokemon revert to their normal size before running off into the wildlands, hiding out of shame and fear of what just happened. This causes both Colossal and Charizard to revert to their normal forms as well, as both Leon and Brock hug the starters as they signify that they did a job well done. But there's still a major problem. They were unable to find the mushrooms that Mustard told them to. However, Brock tells Leon he's not so sure. As they see the Dynamax particles begin to settle across the land, it triggers something to happen. The energy slowly begins to restore all of the destruction from the previous battle. And that's not all. What grows is giant-sized mushrooms, just the one that Brock and Leon were looking for. The boys can't believe it. What Peony and Mustard said was true. As long as they worked together and they were able to unlock their Pokemon's hidden power, then they would find what they were looking for. That means that their mission is complete. Doing the best that they can, the boys traverse the northern side of the island, trying to find as many mushrooms as possible. Luckily, it seems that there are in abundance with all the surges of Dynamax energy that had happened recently, so they're able to get a healthy stock, and within the next couple of hours, they have enough to return to camp, to which they are greeted by Peony as he tells the boys well done. while Mustard merely asks if they learned anything while they were out there, to which the boys both nod. The stubborn old man simply nods as he asks them for the mushrooms. He's going to show them how to achieve Dynamax. What follows is an odd ritual, as neither one of them thought this would turn into a cooking class. However, Mustard explains that in order to achieve Dynamax, two things must happen. They must first be able to achieve a Dynamax without a Pokeball, and they also have to have something that's called a Max Soup. It's a food that's made from the ingredients that grow on this island as a result of an intense Dynamax battle, aka the Max Mushrooms. Once they blend this with other ingredients that are only found on the Isle of Armor, they will have what they need to achieve this transformation. It will unlock the full potential of both their Pokemon, but it's only going to be possible because you guys were able to achieve the Dynamax with your Pokemon without using a Pokeball or the Dynamax bands. Both boys watch as Mustard masterfully assembles the soup, as they both realize that the old man isn't kidding, as Peony impatiently waits with a fork ready to gobble down some of the delectable delicacy. It isn't long until everyone has a bowl in front of them. Mustard tells them that if they wish to achieve this transformation, then they must take the final step. They must consume the Max Soup in its whole, both trainer and Pokemon. Once they do that, then their Pokemon will be able to achieve their Gigantamax transformations. So Brock and Leon waste no time as they and their two starters begin to devour the delicacy, leaving Joe to look on as he wonders about both Brock and Leon's table manners. But then again, they have been in the wild for over a day, and they didn't really have anything to eat before, so this is understandable as the two quickly consume every morsel within sight of their bowls, to which both Colossal and Charizard do the same. It's here that something happens. The Dynamax band around Leon and Brock's wrists and their Pokemon begin to glow slightly as the aura changes from a purplish pink to a deeper, darker purple. Does that mean what I think it means? Leon asks, to which Mustard confirms. Once you two enact your next Dynamax transformation with your two starters, they will take on their Gigantamax form. However, their ability to maintain the form will be limited at first. Just like everything, it's going to require practice. Holding up a Pokeball, Brock asks Leon if he would like to get a chance to get some practice in, to which the boy eagerly accepts. However, this challenge is going to be interrupted when a crash is heard from behind everybody. Turning, the group sees Berserker as it has stumbled through some of the dishes that are sitting next to the fire before it grabs the steel pot off of it and begins drinking the Max Soup with no hesitation. The Hobo Cat wastes no time in devouring every last morsel of it before dropping the 5-gallon pot and letting out a loud belch, as it seems for some reason that it was oddly satisfied by the Max Soup, to which Brock can see on its face. As Berserker sits there picking its teeth with its belly jutting out from being full for the first time in what seems its entire life, Brock approaches the steel feline, asking if it's alright. However, the reaction that he gets is different than the other times they've had interactions. Berserker actually acknowledges Brock, but not because he has food, but because it seems like it actually wants interaction with him, like Berserker is trying to tell Brock something, to which Brock goes off a whim, pulling out a Pokeball once again. This causes the Galarian Trash Panda to jump with joy, as Brock is the first trainer to ever actually have patience with it, and present it with a meal that it actually found filling. Without hesitation, Berserker taps on the Pokeball, allowing Brock to capture it, and this is where we're going to leave things for now. So tell me, how did you feel about this part? What did you think of Brock and Leon's journey to get Gigantamaxing for their two starters? And how did you feel about Brock's capture and Berserker, and the Hobo Cat seemingly being satisfied with the Max Soup and finally accepting Brock as a trainer for it? And what about the things that Joe's going through? It seems the boy is having a bit of separation issues as he doesn't want to let go of Brock. And of course, what is Rose and Opal up to in the wild area? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And that's that's all we had for today's video. I really appreciate you guys stopping by to watch all the way to the end, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. If you guys really enjoy my content, consider following me on some of my other platforms like Discord, where you can get to know other people who are interested in what ifs, or on Twitter, where I post sometimes behind the scenes updates. Or if you want to help the channel grow a little bit extra, why don't you consider donating like the people right here have, as whatever you could offer could help us get to a larger audience by helping us get new videos done, or some of the projects that we work. Custom art is getting kind of expensive, so we want to make sure that we have the funds to do that. But with all that being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed everything, and I will see you in the next video.